Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Saints post-game show presented by Verizon. I'm Mike Hoss in for Caroline Gonzalez as the Saints go on the road and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a close one. It was a close one from the get-go, but the Saints never trailed. They went on the road 13-6 to move to 5-1, their fourth straight win. Of course, Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback after that loss with the Rams, and Drew Brees got hurt. Teddy Bridgewater has done the rest as the Saints lead the NFC South with that 5-1 record. So here's what we're going to have this afternoon. We will have Sean Payton. When he comes into the postgame presser, you'll hear from Sean. We will also hear from John DeShazer, get his thoughts on the Saints and how this offense and how this defense is really shutting down opponents. And then we'll hear from Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater on the afternoon was... Let me get his numbers. Teddy's numbers were he threw completions of 27, 26, 20, 17, and 14 yards. So what used to be those kind of short passes across the middle, they have been lengthened. He was 24 of 36, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. Again, almost really since he has become the quarterback, the starting quarterback in that Seattle game, he has been enormously efficient with the football again today. Both offenses pretty anemic. Both offenses were 2 of 8 on third down in the first half. The Saints scored first 3-0, then 3-3. And that's the way we went into halftime. 3-3. The Saints took the lead 6-3. Jacksonville came back to tie it, and then it was a Jared Cook, the tight end, the big free agent acquisition whom the Saints picked up in the offseason with Latavius Murray, picked them both up in March. Cook caught his first touchdown pass last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he caught his second touchdown pass today, and it was a big one because it was the only touchdown the Saints would score today, put them on top 13-6. The defense did the rest. The offense got the ball back and held on to it, and it was the famous victory formation as the Saints would hold on to win it 13-6 to move to 5-1. And an important win because Carolina, the Panthers played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this morning in London, technically a road game for Tampa, and Carolina wins again. After a rough start and no Cam Newton, they have come on strong. They are now 4-2, second place in the NFC South. And if you're wondering, where do the Saints have Carolina? It's late in the schedule. They play Carolina November 24th. That'll be the Sunday before Thanksgiving on the 28th. And then, as we've really become used to, they will play Carolina in the last game of the season. That will be December 29th. That one will be at home, Saints and Carolina on the 29th. So a lot of football left to play, but the Saints doing what they have to do to win football games. Not always pretty, not certainly the offense that we have become used to, but Teddy Bridgewater continues to grow each game. Each game seems to be more comfortable. Alvin Kamara had kind of a banged up ankle. Didn't learn much about it until Friday, but Latavius Murray came in. Murray had 8 carries, 44 yards. For the longest run of his day was 15 yards. Alvin Kamara still carried it 11 times, 31 yards. The longest run for Kamara was 7. The longest run of the day for the Saints, that was Taysom Hill. The quarterback came in, picked up a crucial first down, and a 19-yard play by Taysom Hill. Mike Thomas, pretty quiet early on in this football game, but as it turns out, he was targeted 12 times, 8 catches, 89 yards, did not catch a touchdown. But now let's listen to Sean Payton from Jacksonville.
Observations. I thought defensively we were outstanding. I think the second half we got a little bit better offensively. We missed a number of opportunities in the first half, and we'll look to get those cleaned up. But it's a good win to get on the road and kind of go from there. Any questions?
How much do wins like this you feel like help you just down the road?
Well, look, I think as long as we're coming to work each week and focused on improving on the things that we're not doing well, then I think they're beneficial. I think our focus and attention to detail has been good. I think we still have a lot of work to do to get where we want to go. You know, we're not gonna like the third down numbers offensively. We're not gonna like some of the stuff early on, and that's, you know, really starts with me and all of us to improve in that area. We're gonna love, you know, the way we played defensively. I felt the energy again was there today. I thought that was going to be a challenge, honestly. You know, coming here from an atmosphere standpoint, it's nothing. You know, you've got to find a way to bring it and be ready to play a game, knowing that it might be a little quiet. And thought we had a good turnout fan-wise, but nonetheless, it was a good win. I thought in the kicking game, you know, we did some really good things. We had the long punt, covered that well. I thought we caught a midfield punt, you know, with a quick 9-yard, 10-yard gain that changed the field position. In the first half, I felt like we won that field position battle. We just didn't score enough points.
Thomas Morstead, 5 of his 6 punts were, you know, pinned them back inside the 15.
Yeah.
How important was his work?
Outstanding. Look, it was a good team win. I mean, you know, we go all the way back to OTAs, you know, the mini camps in June. And, you know, you want to put yourself in position to win games like this. And, you know, I thought we had that energy, and I thought we played with, you know, the type of passion you need to play with.
How important was that third down catch by Cook there in the fourth quarter? Did they send like a zero blitz on that?
Well, it was a short yardage call. It felt like the ball was in the air for 20 seconds, really. I mean, it was like, you know, it's just a why hide play that you kind of get caught in the blocking scheme, and he did a good job of kind of sneaking out the backside, but it seemed like it took forever. It was a big play out, you know, just to get the first down, to keep the drive moving.
You touched on it, but you're not used to winning games with this kind of tempo. You're winning games in different ways really the last month.
Yeah, well, look, I think in a number of the games this past month, I would agree with last week a little differently, and yet each week we just talk about how do we win that game, and because honestly, in a week or 2 weeks from now, we're not gonna look specifically to how we won certain games. We're gonna hopefully learn and get better from how we won, but I think, you know, the key is, you know, understanding what wins in our league, and, you know, yeah, do you want to score every time you get the football and defend every time you get the football? But, man, I told our defense I felt like if we'd have played 8 quarters, they wouldn't have scored a touchdown today, honestly.
John, have you felt like over the last 3 weeks, what you've seen in practice defensively, we're building towards?
Well, I think you're gradually, you know, like anything else, there's confidence that comes with a game, and then you feed off of that, and so, you know, I think there's a level of expectation that's pretty high in our locker room, you know, relative to what kind of team we think we can be.
Kind of going off that, when I talk to some of these defensive players in the locker room after the game, it seems they always focus on, I could have done this better or that better. And I don't feel like I hear that much. Is that anything new from them? I just always wanting to get better, even when you're talking
I think that, look, we talk a lot about just the opponent being unknown, you know, really faceless, and the opponent really is, you know, inside all of us, and you know, are we doing the things that we can to improve, you know, collectively, not just players, coaches, all of us, and you're constantly, you know, looking at that, because I think when you get on and you're a part of a team that has a chance to be good, you know, generally those good teams, you know, you begin to not want to let anyone down. You want to perform for everyone else, and I think those traits exist in our locker room.
How much did Alvin's ailment hamper you at all? He left the game early again. He was kind of
Yeah, 2 different things, though. I mean, obviously, he just had the swollen ankle coming into the game, but he was ready to go, and then, you know, he tweaked his knee. I don't think it changed what we were doing. I think we're going to look at the tape tomorrow and be frustrated at times in that first half relative to certain looks we have. It wasn't anything difficult. We really didn't get a lot of pressure. So we'll make the corrections and improve in that area.
Sean, getting the ground game running, going in the second half, is that your
We needed to. You know, I think we're at 11 yards at halftime. I mean, you know, that's 5 steps off the bus. So fortunately, we were able to do it, and I think it helped, you know, especially in the fourth quarter.
Same man with Davis Murray, maybe his best game this year.
Look, he ran with confidence. You know, I know he had a night without sleep. You know, having a baby, I think Thursday night, he and his wife, congratulations to them. So, you know, Friday we were without 2 running backs at practice, but, you know, he played hard. He made some really big plays for us, and then the one play came back a little bit because of a holding, which, you know, I disagree with, but it is what it is.
Coach, you said you did get a lot of pressure defensively, but did those guys, even though you did get pressure,
No, I meant, yeah.
keep Gardner from making
Yeah,
plays?
I think the expectation by us was maybe a little bit more pressure from their defense relative to linebacker pressures, safety blitzes. I thought we did a good job of putting the QB on the spot where we wanted him and not getting him or allowing him outside. And so, you know, our objective was to make him play in that phone booth and give him looks defensively that, you know, we felt like he probably hadn't seen. And I thought we did a good job of that. You know, he had a couple extended plays, but there weren't many.
Sean, were you pleased with the job you did on Fournette?
Yeah, he's a tough back to bring down. I thought our guys tackled well. Yeah. All right, thank you. And so, you know, our objective was to make him play in that phone booth and give him looks defensively.
All right, you heard from head coach Sean Payton. The Saints is victorious in Jacksonville, 13-6, as they move to 5-1. They will take on the Chicago Bears next week. That'll be in Chicago. A little later start. They had the noon start Central Time this week. They'll be at 3:25 next week. Soldier Field. If you're going to play the Bears, you might as well play them in October. Tough place to play, Soldier Field, if you get much later than that. Sean Payton talked a lot about his special teams, and what a job again by Thomas Morstead. He was your NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. Just continues to dominate. Still no touchbacks. Balls touchdown inside the 20 5 or 6 times again today. And how about Will Lutz? He was 2 for 2 today, made his only 2 kicks, and then he's now made 34 straight field goals on the road. That ties an NFL record. We're going to hear from Teddy Bridgewater, and very soon we will hear from John DeShazer to get his thoughts on the Saints and how they just gutted out a win defensively and offensively. No turnovers for the offense, just 1 turnover. Marshawn Lattimore gets his first pick off, and now let's check in with John DeShazer. He's at TIAA Bank Stadium. You're watching the Saints digital postgame show by Verizon, and big win for the Saints. Let's hear from John DeShazer.
Well, Mike, you heard Coach Payton, and there isn't a whole lot to quibble about, especially defensively. Now, obviously, offensively, as he mentioned, there's some things to clean up, some red zone opportunities that were left on the field, some points that were left on the field, and those are things that you need to clean up, but obviously you get a chance to clean up in victory as opposed to defeat, and that's what the main thing is. The Saints are 5-1 for the 2nd consecutive year. They'd never done that before in franchise history until this year. 5-1 last year, 5-1 this year, so a nice little piece of history for the Saints. And defensively, look, these last 3 games have been about as well as they played defensively in the Sean Payton era. I know they had a 6-game stretch last year, but these 3 consecutive games where they've allowed opponents less than 300 yards, only gave up 10 points to Dallas, only gave up 6 points here today. And even the 27 last week against Tampa Bay, a little bit deceptive, I would say, because of, you know, the late comeback in that game. So, you know, they played extremely well defensively. Get the turnover from Marshawn Lattimore, get a couple of sacks out of Cam Jordan. They didn't necessarily sack Gardner Minshew probably as much as they wanted to, but they kept him in the pocket. They kept him off rhythm. They were extremely aggressive and very, very good in the secondary in terms of, you know, beating receivers to the spot, getting pass breakups. So defensively, I mean, I think this team is on a fantastic roll, the kind of roll that they thought they would be on this entire season. This is what they talked about in OTAs and in training camp and in mini camp. They wanted to be an elite defense. They've played that way for these 3 straight games. They've been as good as any defense in the league for my money. And if you ask this team what they would have wanted to do, especially I think with Drew Brees out, the defense said it themselves. They wanted to pick up the pace. They wanted to be a little bit better because they knew they felt like they needed to carry the load a little bit more. We've seen them carry that load, especially these last 3 games. And even if you go back to the Seattle game, they allowed 27 points, yeah, but only 7 through the first 3 quarters. So they've had a really fantastic run defensively. I think, special teams, if you talk about what Thomas Morstead did, he was outstanding. Those punts inside the 20 really pinned Jacksonville back. And again, you get into a difficult situation where it's not going well for you offensively. So you've got to be able to excel in the other 2 areas of the game, and I thought they did that well. Teddy Bridgewater, hey, some days are going to be a work in progress, and some days are going to be smooth. Last week against Tampa Bay, extremely smooth, 4 touchdowns. Today, a work in progress. He missed some throws that he'll tell you he wants back, and this offense wants back. But again, these are corrections that you get an opportunity to make in victory. The Saints are 5-1. They still lead the NFC South division. Those are important things, especially with Drew Brees out, because now, and even though he's going to have the mental, pressure from himself to where he wants to get back as quickly as possible, we know the competitor that he is, but the Saints aren't desperate to have him back because they're on a losing streak or because they're falling behind in the division. They've got a little something to play with here, and, yeah, you don't want to look at it that way, but that's the reality of it. They've got a little something to play with here. They've got a little wiggle room and an opportunity for him to completely heal. No reason to even think about rushing anything back because, there's a little bit of time to be had. Next game, they're going to Chicago. After that, come home against Arizona, and then they go into the bye week. And these are also winnable games for this team, especially the way they're playing. They're playing it close. Keep it close with the defense. Defense play lights out. Be solid special teams. They've done that. And whatever you can get from the offense, so far it's been enough to win these games. And that's all you can ask for. Again, it doesn't have to be beautiful all the time. What you want is something in that W column. You want that win column. As long as it doesn't go in the L column, you're fine if you're the Saints. And that's exactly where they are right now. So they're having a good time of it. Coach Payton mentioned there are a myriad of things that they want to clean up. And there are some areas that will need to be cleaned up. They're going to have to play a little bit better, especially down the stretch of this football season, because they've been able to get away with some things. But, again, they don't have their number 1 offense out there. They're kind of a work in progress right now. Alvin Kamara a little bit banged up today, and I think we saw a little bit of it. But, Latavius Murray certainly picked up for him. Michael Thomas had another outstanding game. I thought, along the offensive line, as a whole, they did a pretty decent job. So, again, you got to work as 3 units. They were able to do that again today. Got a little bit more from the defense than they got from the other units. But, man, when you play that kind of defense, you give your offense an opportunity to win any game in any situation. And that's how this team is built now. They're built to where they can win probably in any element, probably in any stadium. They're going to give themselves an opportunity to win. That's exactly what they did here today. And then they made a play down the stretch. They were able to punch it in, get in the red zone. A nice high pass from Teddy Bridgewater to Jared Cook, who comes up big on that touchdown reception. And then they're able to pull it out because, you got the feeling in this game, Mike, where if the Saints were able to get a touchdown in that second half, you got the feeling that they would not be able to be caught. And that was exactly the case. They got the touchdown, and then they were able to get the stops that they wanted to get. So, bravo to them. They win the game. That's 4 straight, 5-1 again for the second consecutive season. The first time they've ever done that in franchise history, a 4-game winning streak. This is the 3rd consecutive season they've had winning streaks of at least 4 games. So this team understands winning. They get themselves in position, and they're able to cash in and cash out with it, and that's a good thing. The team with a winning culture. They know how to win games with or now without Drew Brees. So it'll be, a nice flight home. They'll get back to work. They've got a difficult opponent next Sunday in Chicago. That's another game that they're going to be looking to win because now you have to start looking ahead. And even if it's a little bit early to be looking at the standings, you start looking around and you start thinking about who's in first place in the NFC in terms of the conference. And now you put yourself in position to where you can start thinking about those seeds as you get a little bit further in the season because they become important. You want as many games at home as you can possibly get. And when you're talking about playoffs, you want them all at home until you get to the Super Bowl. So the Saints, certainly stacking up some wins, putting themselves in position, hoping for the best. And now we'll go home and see what happens as they get ready in the preparation for Chicago, get ready to go and play the Bears next week at Soldier Field, Mike.
Right on. John DeShazer really just kind of nailing it, talking about really just a complete team win and the defense. And I thought what Sean Payton said in his post presser that, he told his defense they could have played 8 quarters, and he didn't think that the Saints would have given up a touchdown. That speaks volumes for how this defense is playing right now. You look at 2 really key plays, key areas of this Saints defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars had been stout, one of the best red zone offenses out there. 6 touchdowns from Minshew, no picks, but they get into the red zone. Saints stop them, force a field goal by Josh Lambo. That was big. Then they get a 4th and 2, stop them there. So Jacksonville was 4 of 14 on 3rd down, 0 of 1 on 4th down. The Saints defense did what it had to do because they win at 13-6. And as we're talking about that, let's take a look at the highlights of the Saints winning at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville this afternoon.
Bridgewater hit his man, and now Minshew running out of time, throws over the middle, intercepted at the 40-yard line, picked off by Marshawn Lattimore. Minshew had to pull it down on the run, gonna go down. That's Cameron Jordan. Gonna come this way with the football, turn the corner, get some yardage inside the 30, out of bounds at about the 25-yard line. First down, New Orleans Saints. 19-yard pickup.
What's the seal to the left? Austin Carr 80 gets the seal on the edge. That allows Armstead to get out into the and
he's gonna throw for it. Pulls it down, now throws, end zone, caught, and a touchdown. Jared Cook.
The Saints victorious 13-6 today in Jacksonville, as John said, to move to 5-1 on the season. You could not have expected much more than that with the schedule that they had. Rams, Seattle, Dallas, Tampa. I mean, you play a really tough schedule. The Texans coming out on Monday night, a Sunday night game, and to be 5-1 and to lose Drew Brees early on in game number 2 with the Chicago Bears coming up. Now, the Bears are a good team, and what's worse, the Bears are off this week, so they've got a complete open week to prepare for the Saints. A couple of defensive notes I wanted to mention. Leonard Fournette, they go. The Jaguars go as he goes. He was held under 100 yards. The Saints defense holding yet another rusher under 100 yards. 20 carries, 72 yards, 0 touchdowns. Gardner Minshew, 14 of 29, 162 yards, 51.4. That was his quarterback rating. They only had 226 yards. Time of possession, not always a great barometer of football. Today, pretty much it was. The Saints held it for 33 minutes and 9 seconds, while Jacksonville had it for 26 minutes and 51 seconds. Typically, we would hear from the quarterback today. For whatever reason, they are not going to bring Teddy Bridgewater to the lectern and the podium to hear what he had to say. He was 24 of 36 on the afternoon, and that big touchdown pass to Jared Cook, his second in as many weeks, as the Saints climb to 5-1. And while we're here and you've got some time this afternoon, do not forget, it's Pelicans basketball. You want to stream a little NBA preseason? Go to Pelicans.com. The Pelicans off to a 3-0 start. One more preseason game after today. That's Friday, October 18th, and they will open the season October 22nd against Toronto, the defending NBA champions, as right now the Pelicans and, of course, Zion Williamson and the team unbeaten in preseason play and looking pretty strong. The Saints next week, 3:25 kickoff at Soldier Field in Atlanta, and we will be here right after that game for another edition of the Saints Digital Postgame Show presented by Verizon. Have a great afternoon, everyone.